Hello. Hey guys, it's Kimmi. Today we are talking about what happens when you lose your notary journal or if it's lost in your notary stamp, right? And that actually happened to me. So I'm going to tell you the story in just a second. But first I want to give you a little backdrop, okay? So first of all, your journal or your stamp could be stolen because we have our bags on us all the time, right? I know I do. I never leave the house without my notary bag. So if I'm parked at Walmart, if I'm out having lunch, someone could steal your journal, your whole bag, or your stamp or whatever, right? So what's the process? What should you do? So if your stamp or whatever is stolen, you need to report it to your local police department. Why? Because it's any other crime. It's just like any other crime. If your car is stolen, you're going to report it to the police department because you want them to know, hey, if this car turns up later to be part of a bank robbery or something, you had nothing to do with it. The same thing with your ink stamp and your journal. If it's lost or stolen, you want to make sure you report that to the proper authorities. They're going to give you a police report. You want to keep a copy of that. You want to let your Secretary of State know. Find out what your rules are in your Secretary of State handbook if your stamp is lost or stolen, or your journal. What is the process? Okay. You also may have to send a letter to your Secretary of State and let them know what happened. So let's talk about what happened with me, and then I'm going to come back to a couple more tips what you should do. So Jeffrey and I were going out to do a job. I had first had a job here at my home. Jeff wrote in my journal something for me. He put it on top of the car, and we pulled out. We had driven about 45 minutes to the next job, and then we got there, and I was like, oh, I need my journal so I can write it down. We get there. No journal to be found. I was like, where's my journal at? It's always in my bag, right? Because I have a process. And part of my process is I make sure I put my journal, I make sure I put my stamps, I put everything in my bag prior to leaving the appointment, right? So I think I probably got a little sidetracked because I was at home and didn't do my normal process probably. And then I was hurrying to the next location. So we get there, I do not have my journal, right? So I was thinking, God, where's my journal? So I ended up writing the details for that client on a piece of paper. I said, when I find my journal, I'll just stick it in there. And I am a little nervous at this point because I'm like, where is it? So anyway, we drive back home. 45 minutes, you guys will not believe where my journal was. You won't believe me. Where was it? It was in the street. My journal, my notary journal was in the street. Thank God nobody came by and picked it up because the school, we had left that, I know another reason why I was thrown off that day because we left for that appointment around 9 o'clock in the morning, and we usually start our day a little bit later sometimes. And this was an early appointment because I remember the school kids were at the bus stop at the corner. And I was thinking to myself, when I got back and saw my journal in the street, sitting up like glowing, I was just like, what the world? So anyway, I was glad none of the parents picked it up walking, back from the bus stop or whatever. The journal was just sitting right there in the street. So I got the journal. Needless to say, that will never happen again. But I got the journal back, and I was a nervous wreck because like I said, where's my journal? So I got it back off the street in front of the house. It was like a door down because it must have fell off the car as we backed out the driveway. So we got the journal back, and that has never happened again. I've had, I don't know how many journals, and I've never lost one. But it does happen, and it can happen to you again. You might do the same thing. You might forget, leave it on top of the car. You might leave it at a client's house and just don't remember where you left it. And then they may not remember that you left it. You call and say, hey, did I leave my journal? Some states, if you have to replace your notary stamp, will require you to make a slight change on the new stamp, so that they can know the difference when it's being recorded, a document, if it was your old stamp that was being used or if it's your new stamp. Because remember, someone else has your old stamp. So for example, if your name is David J. Smith, when you get the new stamp, they may just have you put David Smith instead of putting the whole thing, right? Because they need to make some kind of distinguishing mark or some kind of separation between the old stamp and the new stamp, right? So that may be one of the changes that they may do. They may also have you maybe just put D. Smith, or whatever. So you and the Secretary of State will have to come up with a variation of your name. But sometimes that's another way that they go about making sure that that's not the same stamp that's being used. Also, some states, if you do not report that your journal or your stamp was lost or stolen, they may actually fine you. So you, in addition to you costing yourself business because you've lost the stamp or the stamp has been stolen. Because if you don't have your stamp and you don't have a backup, if your state allows you to have a backup too, I'm gonna highly recommend that you have one, because it could fall, it could break, any number of things could happen to the one stamp that you have. So if you're allowed to have two, go ahead. You're gonna have to check your handbook. So don't ask me, can I have two? Check your handbook. You need to know your state handbook. But if you can have two, I actually have two stamps. Okay, I have a square, a little rectangular one, and I have a round one. The round one is not my favorite, but that's my backup. So also, again, if you don't report it, your state may fine you money because you did not report the crime. Also, when you order your new stamp, they may make some changes on it. For example, if your other stamp was rectangular, they may suggest that you get a round one. If it had a border on it, they may suggest ordering the new stamp without a border. So there's going to be a couple of different ways that your state will handle you ordering a new stamp to make sure that it's definitely different from the original stamp, because they need a way to distinguish that, okay? So you always want to protect yourself. Make sure your journal, your notary stamp, is always protected. If it's on you, if it is in your vehicle, make sure it's covered up. If you have to run in and have lunch somewhere, you got to run in and do something, don't just leave it sitting out. We have actually made that mistake several times. Jeffrey will take his bag also. His bag is so heavy, so he'll just sit it in the back seat. I'm like, don't leave it back there like that, because someone can see it, break in the car window. Now I got a car expense too, because I got to get the window replaced, you know. But the main reason is I don't want my notary stamp stolen or his notary stamp stolen. So, you know, leave it out of sight. That way people can't see it. Don't let people see you putting your bag in your car either. I had a friend, she said that they never do that. If they pull up to a restaurant and you have not already put the bag in the back of the car, like, you know, you don't want to take it in the restaurant, don't do it at the restaurant because somebody could be watching. So do it away from the restaurant, or do it away from whatever your final destination is. Put your bag up so no one can see you doing it, because that's another clear indication, hey, it's something valuable in there. They may not even know what it is. Take off your magnets off the side of your car too. If I'm going to be sitting somewhere, my mother used to hate when I rode around with my magnets on, but I used to tell her, hey, I'm running a business, so people need to know who I am, right? But when I'm parked at a McDonald's or something for a long time, or if I know I'm going to Walmart to do grocery shopping, do I really need to leave my magnets on my car to let everybody know, hey, I'm a notary? Yes, for that perspective, yes. But I don't want everybody to think my notary bag is in the car either. So, you know, that might be something else you do, is remove your magnets. So these are just a few tips how to be safe out there with your notary journal, with your notary stamp. And don't lose your stuff like I did. I lost my journal. I cannot believe it. It won't happen again. Well, until next time, I hope these tips will help you. Bye.